Thanks, guys. Well, football is back, and this is actually Zach and I's last Iowa football pregame show. We had a decent run, though. Wouldn't say it was that great. But last season, up and down, inconsistent, frustrating, I think are all the words me and you have used as the season went on, and I'm sure Hawkeye fans also used to describe the 2017 season. But they had Ohio State, they had a bowl win, and I mean, Josh Jackson, what a season he had. This team did have its bright spots.
Absolutely. There were some really good moments, some things to look back on. A lot of breakout performances. Josh Jackson was kind of an unknown coming into this season. Ohio State, who would have thought? It was a lot of fun at times. You ended with a bowl win. That was the goal going in, is to be able to get that bowl win that's eluded Iowa down the stretch. And now I think they made a really solid ground to be able to build on this the next couple of years.
Now, the Hawkeyes did lose a lot of guys, including some of their top players, the entire linebacking core, the offensive line, which, I mean, most of the guys were out during last year anyways, but James Daniels, Sean Welsh, big losses for Iowa. You lose Matt Vandenberg, you lose the one and only Akram Wadley, and then the big one, Josh Jackson.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be hard to replace those. I think the hardest one, instead of an individual player, is going to be that whole linebacking crew, because you got a lot of young guys who didn't see any time because you had such a veteran group at that linebacking position. So that's going to be an area where you got to find a guy in the middle that knows that defense, is able to take control, and yet two guys outside who, again, are involved in almost every single play.
Yeah, and Phil Parker did touch on, too, at media on Tuesday, just, those were their leaders. So people are going to have to step up, but he did talk about how much Parker Hesse and Anthony Nelson have stepped up. So those are two big ones, which not a surprise at all either. Yeah,
no, and that defensive line, I think, is going to be key. Those guys, like you said, Parker and those guys on the outside, they're going to have a huge performance because they've been really good those first games last year, and now this year just a little bit more veteran.
Well, here's what Phil had to say on the defensive leadership.
I look at it, and I look at the defensive line. The leadership should come from Parker Hesse. Anthony Nelson has really done a good job. You look at the safeties, with Jake Gervais and Amani Hooker. We expect a lot, and they've been doing a lot for us in the back end. And then obviously in the linebacker area, I think Amani Jones is doing a great job there at the Mike backer. So when we're sitting there talking about these guys, and I think going down to the strengths of our team, I think is our defensive line. And the good thing is about the defensive ends, I think we have a lot of guys that can play that position, which allows us to be more flexible and maybe slide a couple guys inside.
Well, Brian Ferentz finished his first season as the offensive coordinator, and I mean, it was rough for him. You had the injuries at the O-line, brand new quarterback. Play calling was a little bit what we talked about. Wasn't the best year for him, but then again, it was his first year as the OC.
Well, there were so many things to work with. Like you said, a first-year quarterback, you're learning a brand new offense. I think they set a great foundation going in. Then, not a year two with this coaching staff that's been together for some time.
Yeah. Well, here's what Brian had to say on what he learned from his first season as OC.
I think I learned that I'm not really as good at it as I'd like to be. And I think if you do anything, that should be the way you're looking at it. But I tried to be realistic going into it. I've been around it long enough now to understand that anything you do, you're probably going to improve over time. But you have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone a little bit and push forward. So, there's a lot of things that I can do better, just from a personal standpoint. But I think the main thing is just trying to do a better job of putting our football team in a position to be successful and to have a chance to succeed. And whether it's Scott's question about third downs or whether it's a first down play call, just trying to make sure that we're using the right pieces the best way that we can, and trying to give ourselves a chance to win. Going back to your question, Mike, goal is to win a Big Ten championship. How do we best get there? And what can I do to help us get there? What's my role on the team? So I think the biggest thing for me is learning how to do a better job of maximizing the role I'm in now, because it was new to me a year ago.
The spring game is tonight under the lights inside of Kinnick Stadium. They have said it'll be more like a practice instead of a game. Who are you excited to see? Who do you think the fans should look out for?
I think the linebacking crew is going to be good to see. 3 separate guys. You're going to get guys who don't have a lot of game experience in those positions. So that's going to be interesting to see who runs that defense. And then offensively, the wide receivers are going to be interesting. They're now a little bit more veteran guys like Nick Easley, guys like Amir Smith-Marset, who are in their second year, have been around there a little bit more, get the process now. But I think you can't take too much away from these springs because you still got that whole summer. You still got camp. There's still so much that can be done throughout that time. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how it pans out now here going into the summer.
Just like you said, I'm excited to see the linebackers, who's going to step up. I'm excited to see the young guys in the running back position as they take over for James Butler, Akram Wadley. And then the tight ends, they're going to have a good year. They have TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant.
Back.
Yeah, and then even Nate Weeding, he was talking about on Tuesday, too, how much he's learned just from TJ and Noah. And we saw Nate a little bit last year as well.
Yeah.
Well, that is it for us. The spring game is scheduled to start tonight at 7 p.m. inside of Kinnick Stadium. I am so excited to be back. Zach is actually heading to Minnesota today for Iowa baseball, so hopefully you won't have the worst weather in the world.
It hasn't been good so far, but we'll send it back over to you guys at the desk.